Hey y'all, I want to give you an update on my Game Jam entry for Metroidvania month. When I last left you, I had kind of some blocked out mechanics and level, and it was all very basic, so I started to work on fleshing out the character design. Don't worry, I'm going to change those gloves. And I really liked the idea of having something around the face or around the head, so I kind of gave like this giant shawl that surrounds the player's face. I don't think I'm going to leave the glasses in, although they are kind of cool looking. And I like the blocky look of the clothing. I don't know why. It just kind of looks interesting to me. So this is the menu I kind of threw together. I created a system so you can start, resume, restart the level if you want, and you can quit. And when you actually restart or quit, it doesn't work initially, so you can't accidentally restart the game or accidentally quit the game. You have to hold it for a number of seconds, and then it'll restart. So this is just a concept level I started to work on in Blender, and I wanted to see kind of like what the workflow was to get it in here. There's obviously not a lot of detail being shown because I have a lot of fog, and there's going to be definitely a lot of tweaks going on here. But what I do want to show you is some of the new movesets and animations I created for the character. If you're curious what this is a checkpoint system. So when you walk up to these, I'll have you interact with them, and it'll save your position in the game and what level you're on. So I'm just going to run over here really quickly and teleport to the test level that I've been working on. So we're at the test level right now. Let me hit the save button here. So what we have is we have our character with a nice little walk animation. I gave it a little jump animation. As well, I worked on tweaking how long the jump lasts in the air, depending on what your character's speed is at. Also gave it a dash animation, which lets you slide across the floor. And when you do that, you can get a little bit longer of a jump in. I also cleaned up the ledge jumping and ledge grabbing animation. Now it's lined up perfectly and the character actually lines up properly. Also let you so you can actually jump off sections of the wall like this. I gave it a little flip animation. Here we can see every spot up here. I need to add a little extra to these save terminals. Probably gonna have something wrapped around the terminal that's kind of like holographic and spinning around it when you access it. This is just a little health icon I had. I wanted to test out how to use health in the game. These are actually active cameras. I don't know if you can tell. There's the guy down there to your bottom right. He's moving around, and I have the active camera focusing on him. And what the camera is doing is it's rendering to a texture, and then I apply the texture to this quad. That's all featured in Godot 4. It's very easy. It's called Sprite 3D. It's not exactly performant, so I think you'd want to do some cost savings. What I did was, as you get close to it, it'll actually start rendering. I disable it, disable the camera and shut things off, but when you come up, I undo all that. I have some sprites jumping up and down so you can see where a teleporter might be. This is just originally for me to get around the level as I was testing things out, but I kind of liked it so much that I'm going to add it to the game. I don't know if it's going to end up being like this painting look to it, or if I'm going to give it more of a holographic look. But the camera is essentially down on that ledge further down there, so we'll walk down there. And here we are. So I'll show you some more of the ledge grabbing. That's the primary mechanic to get around. And I don't know if you can tell, but since the character won't jump all the way up with a spinning jump, he'll just have a standard jump, and that's because there's not enough ledge to jump onto for him to do that kind of a move. There's just some variation in jumping around, because I imagine in my game you're going to have a lot of jumping and getting around each level, and I really want to make that a main mechanic in the game, is to move around. So you need some variation when you do that. I'm not sure I'm going to keep these blue boots now that I'm looking at them. They're pretty bad. I might smooth them out a little bit too. So another mechanic that I have is you can slide along the wall, and as you do that, you'll be pulled down by the gravity. But it lets you move along the wall to get to other spaces. So this just gives me another way to move around the level and provide some variety as you play the game. This blue bar down here is a rail slide that you can jump on, and it'll prevent you from falling down below it, and it lets you slide along it. I'll have some rail slides around the level so you can actually get to farther parts of the level, and I'm going to make that an upgrade mechanic for the boots itself. I also plan to add a shadow under the character, so when he's high in the air and he's jumping, you'll see his shadow always underneath him. Right now you have the shadow from the sun, but sometimes if the sun is low or if you're in a dark area, you're not necessarily going to see the shadows. What I'll do is have a very dark shadow that you can always see. So you can plan your jumps, because jumping in 3D space is actually pretty tricky, and that's why a lot of games have a little circular shadow at the bottom of the character. In addition to controller support, I added mouse and keyboard support, so now you can play the game with both controller and mouse and keyboard, but controller has always been coming first because I feel like games play a lot better, especially 3D games like this where it's third person. It plays a lot better with a controller. It's much more relaxing, and especially if it's a movement mechanic based game where you need to jump between platforms, it's a lot more fun to play with a controller than a mouse and keyboard. Next up is to work on enemies. I have already built out most of the enemy AI, and in addition to that, I need to start working on what the characters will look like. I have some pretty good ideas of what I want to build, of what I want to create. I want kind of like a slug-like creature that is docile until you attack it. I want another one to roll up and smash into you, and I have some other ideas too of some creatures that will use telekinesis to throw things at you and that kind of thing. This guy's AI is actually pretty advanced. It's hard to tell because he's just moving around the level, but he's constantly searching for you, and if he loses sight of you, he'll look for the last place that he saw you, and then if he can see you again from that place, he'll start hunting you again. But if you continue to move out of his eyesight, he'll eventually lose interest and go back to what he was doing, which is the patrolling. Some additional enemy AI that I plan on doing is strafing, so it goes alongside of the character while you're fighting, as well as cowering away, so it has some sense of life and health. I also created a way to load different sections of the game. So here I load into this level and I save here, and it actually saves in the file structure. The saving structure is kind of simple. I have every time you touch a checkpoint, you save the game. It's in a giant array, so you can always go back in time. I plan to have it so you can roll back your save games if you ever need to. The only concern I have is that if the game fails to save, like due to a power failure or something like that, the save file itself will be corrupted, and you'd have to go in and fix it manually, which might be tough for some people. I certainly wouldn't expect people to know how to do it. So what I plan to do is to instead run it as a log. So each time you save the game, it'll log a new line of text, and if that text doesn't finish writing to the file, I'll have the log reader just realize that and roll back to the last save. Alright, so that's what I have going on so far. I hope I have enough time to finish this game. I know I have a lot of things to do, and I just have 1 month left. I have at least 3 creatures to create, a couple additional enemy scripts to write, and a lot of environment to build out. I also wanted to create some more animations for the environment, but I'm not so sure I'm going to get to that point, so I think I might just have some basic doors, maybe some panels that move left and right so you can go through different portaled areas. Possibly an elevator, I'm not sure yet. Additionally, I have some characters I have to design, and I have to build out a combat system, which is basically the elephant in the room. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the combat system. I really like the combat in Zelda. I think it's nice and simple with different ways you can attack, like a strong attack, maybe a jumping attack, things like that. Just keeping it simple, but enough variety that will be interesting and fun. I only have a month, so there's really only so much I can do at this point to build out the game to submit for this game jam. I think if a lot of people end up liking this game, or if I get enough positive feedback, I'll continue developing it. I know a lot of the games I've designed and developed, I basically forgot about and moved on, and I'm fine with that, but I've actually put a lot of energy into this game, so I'm kind of hoping that people will enjoy playing it. So if you like what you see, please leave a comment. Take care.